Fight Show, episode 20, live on the interwebs. Almost not.
No, I made it. I just might have been late. I made it, though.
I digress. Fight Show, episode 20, live on the interwebs, brought to you by Pull No Punches Apparel, 717 Surplus, and as always, with our flavor of the week, Tropical Mango. CannaDips, you guys, throw it down there at the bottom. Go to CannaDips.com, use the code FightShow for 20% off. I am going to wait a minute here because I don't know. We are live. We're good. No copyright violations this week. We're doing all right.
Yeah. Real quick, while you're sorting stuff out, shout out the trooper, whatever the hell his name was, from the Springsbury Township Police Department, who just let me go with a warning. Big Bad Bill Bookwalter was definitely in the wrong for a rolling stop, and he should have fined me, and he didn't. So, shout out to him.
Hit the old California stop, did you?
I was trying. No,
I'm good.
I was trying.
I messaged you. Back. I sent you the link, and I sat down and I reached over, and I don't know what. Like, I had to look sideways, and my eyes started bothering me. Hey, shout out, my buddy Dan's back on Facebook. Shout out, Dan. What's up, bud? Thanks for stopping in. No, I tore a contact. I was sending you the link, and I went to go hook up my mic, and I leaned sideways. I'm like, ow, I pulled my contact out and it was torn. So I'm like, so if you see me looking all pirate eyed, that's what's up. You got pulled over, so we're here though. That's the only thing that fucking matters. So
the show must go on, man.
week 1 of 13 fight weeks in a row. Can't complain about that.
Thank God. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one this week, man. Got some friends of the show fighting here soon. Very excited to watch them fight.
Yeah, for sure. If you guys are watching and you're in the comments, jump in. You can input anytime. I have the thing up this week. We will see it. Not a lot going on. I mean, we got this fight night card that's not. We sit here now and say, oh, it's just a fight night card. It's an Apex card. But 3 weeks ago, you were crying because we didn't have anything. So
no, it was bad. I'm a junkie.
We'll be thankful.
Yeah.
UFC.
Not a bad card, man. I'm glad it's back on. So
no, I think, and with all, you're not seeing no hype from it. The UFC is. They did their obligatory change their cover photos on their socials, and they've been leaking stuff here and there. But you're not. You go from the hype train of Strickland, Duplessis to. Are we even having a card this week? No, so it's definitely, you see it. But no, Poirier was out. Now he's back in. Yes, very good, Christy.
Hold on. You Poirier and Saint Denis was off. You said Poirier's back in?
It's on. It's I don't know all the finite detail. Yes, Christy, we're thankful. At least we have some fights. That way you don't have to hear Bill bitch. Yeah.
So Saint Denis and Poirier is back on.
So we lost Sean Brady, Vicente Luque, and I say lost. So we lost Sean Brady, Vicente Luque. I'm Jonathan Webb. I'm friends with Jonathan Webb on Facebook. Sean's coach, Joey P's coach over there at Marquez. Well, he's Webb Fitness and MMA, but he's on that Marquez team. He works with them guys. Yeah. But he posted that Sean had been talking about waiting for an injury to heal, and I guess they thought he'd be ready. Tentative. The fight was tentative, him being ready, and he wasn't ready. So it wasn't 100% anybody's real fault. But this Poirier thing, Poirier said he hasn't talked to his manager in a couple of weeks, but at that level, are you really not, with that much deals and that much money going back and forth, you're really not talking to your manager for that much time to know that you're booked. I think there was some issues, and Poirier's like, all right, you either give me my money or I'm pulling.
Yeah.
Or, there's variables. We can sit here and speculate. Point is, for whatever reason, and it's happened before. It's happened with Dustin before. It just happened with Sean. Sometimes they pop these things waiting on, oh, this guy's out for 60 days. Doctor says he should be good in 60 or whatever. Let's book it. And then something happens. So
they will, they'll make it work. They'll figure it out. The real story of what will happen will come out. That's weird. I mean, if you're hurt, you're hurt. I try not to ever,
and that was the thing. The first tweet was, I'm still working. So you put that tweet out, and Dustin didn't say it, but the fickle MMA fan base, everybody's like, oh, it's Saint Denis pulled out. Well, then Saint Denis puts a tweet out that says he's still good. And then Dustin puts a tweet out a little bit later. Hey, fight's on the.
Wonder what the hell happened. I don't even understand what the heck could happen.
The first tweet said something. I mean, I could go back. I posted both of them because you know me. I'm all about the fuckery on social media. I got it right on my page here.
Yeah, I'm only banned for 4 more days. I'll be back.
First one was there was no contractual agreement before the fight was announced, and we couldn't come to terms. Poirier told ESPN's Brett Okamoto via text, and then I think it was 2 hours after that. Poirier put out, sorry, folks, I jumped the gun. I couldn't get a hold of my manager for a few days. I just spoke with him and Hunter. Misunderstanding on my part. Fight is on. So I think something popped up out of that, but I don't, like I said, I'm not.
Yeah, when he put that up on social media, he probably got a phone call reminding him who the fuck he is and who the fuck he works for. Like, yeah.
You know who the fuck I am?
Yeah. It's
one thing I am super excited about, and only, I don't know, a small population of the populace is going to appreciate this. You, I know, will appreciate this, but we've been talking about it for months, and it's kind of, the different topics have drifted in and out of different conversations, but it's some uniformity and some stuff. And you had the instance the other week with Arnold Allen. Monday, if people haven't heard, I know you watched it, so I know you're up to date, but if anybody out there watching hasn't heard, Monday, Andy Foster, who's the California State Athletic Commission director. So anytime the UFC comes to these states, they got to deal with the commissions, referees, judges. They work for the commission. Bill worked for the Pennsylvania Commission as well as other regulating bodies during his career. But like, these are the people, the independent body that does this stuff. So Andy Foster, state commissions are oversaw by the ABC, which is the Association of Boxing Committees. So like when we had Nick Gonzalez on, who's a good buddy of ours, ref and judge in Texas, 20-year MMA vet down there, doing the thing. He has the ABC courses, and he talked about this. So Andy Foster, long story short, CSAC director Andy Foster. I'm sorry, maybe I have it wrong. Brett's calling me on something. You know what? Don't quote me. Brett's going to correct me. He's here. We know he's here, so I feel safe talking now. But anyways, the way I understand it, Andy Foster is on the rules committee for the ABC, and he is putting in to modify the rules for not only grounded opponent, but 12-6 elbows. They're finally trying to get rid of 12-6 elbows. And it was a great interview, and he even agreed to it, that it was a rule that they put in place years ago. And I'm sorry, ABC is an independent body that gives suggestions. While we can't have Brett on the show, which that was addressed also. Brett, while you're here, we got you. And I know I got your attention because you're stalking me on LinkedIn, and that's okay. While we're here, we follow each other now. It's all right. I just made it awkward and followed him back. While he's here, Andy brought up a good point about these judges and these refs not talking to media. And Andy said there's a fine line in somebody going out and just making YouTube videos. And there's also a fine line of media asking judges and refs why they scored something 15 minutes after they scored it that way without letting them rewatch it, etc. So I agreed with some of the stuff Andy says. That still isn't going to get Brent on our show because he's been sworn to secrecy. Greg Serb will come out of retirement and cut Brent's tongue out if he comes on our show. I think that's been the general consensus of what goes on. But Brent is been around the game for a year, so he knows. But yeah, so there's definitely some rules. 12-6 is definitely.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll double back on what you said there because I didn't want this to pass without making a point.
Yeah.
It is absolutely best for everything involved. If you're ever involved in something, anybody, the referees and judges should not speak to the media. If the media has a question, they can ask the athletic commission. Do you know how much stuff that I say that's out of context sometimes? But if you soundbite it or you clip it, half the stuff that I say sometimes, it would make you think, dude, I'm a big supporter of the LGBTQ, that live their life, do their thing. I'm not part of that side, but I'm not against them. I want them to live their life. If you heard some of the stuff I said in joking with my friends, you would think that I'm against gay people. That's not. If you clipped some of the shit that Sean Strickland said, you would think he's the biggest racist, homophobic, doesn't like gay people, he's against them, and that's not the case. You can say something as a referee or judge to the media. They will take that shit out of context and spin it for the most dramatic, like, fucking effect they can, and people are dumb. Society, I love you, but some of you are fucking dumb, just outright dumb. And you'll read some shit, and you can't add 2 and 2 together, and then you get all up in your arms with reading this little clip. You don't research shit. You don't find the facts on anything. You don't see what the guy was talking about. You read some sound clip from the media, some headline, and you roll with it. The judges and refs, they don't owe the fucking media anything. We explain ourselves to the commission. If the media has a question, they can ask Greg Serb. They can ask Andy Foster. I'll be honest with you. He can do what he wants. Mark Goddard is a great referee. I'm not saying it, dude. He's one of the top guys in the game. He is quick to run to his Twitter and explain himself as to what the fuck is going on, or this or this or this or this. I read his shit. It sounded like he didn't even know you were supposed to have a full palm down anywhere. I can guarantee you, John Anik and the commentators, they still think in North America, fingertips is a down fighter. It hasn't been that way for fucking years.
Well, I'm going to break that down to you because here's the kicker, and this is where all this kicked out. So Ontario is still on. The rules in Ontario are this. And again, this goes back to the Andy Foster interview. If any of this is interest you guys, if you're watching the show, it's like a 30-minute clip. It's on the internet. I can link it. I can send it to you. I can put it in the show comments when we're done. But it was a great fucking interview. He said a lot of great things. And what it boils down to, and he even made the suggestion of, and you've talked about it before, the post bouts, where you guys go back and you answer your questions by the commissioner. Why did you do this? What did you do? Absolutely. The media can attend those. And he even said, he's like, nobody's going to find it interesting. But you're always welcome to attend those. We want to be transparent. He goes, there's a difference in a guy making a YouTube video, and there's a difference with an organization who's out here trying to make sure they spread the transparency and not the fuckery. That's why, I spent a lot of time on social, you know what I'm saying? And you either have people that are completely just clickbait, I read this thing and this is it, or you have people that actually do the dedicated research and they have an actual thought in their brain, and it's not just they pulled out again. No, there's reasons for shit. The reasoning with Ontario was because in Ontario in 2024 when this happened this year, if anything besides the soles of your feet are down, you are a downed opponent. So Andy Foster brought it up, many people brought it up. Now, caveat to that is you just mentioned John Anik and them. John Anik had Sean Sheehan, who's from Ireland, who, if I had to talk to somebody for an hour about judging criteria and the way it's laid out, like the guy is dedicated to learning about it. So he had him on. It wasn't until he mentioned it Monday morning on his show that Anik even knew that was the rule for Ontario. And much like Andy Foster said in that interview, with him being on the rules committee for ABC, he talks to all these different commissioners in all these different states. He has the reach that it's a problem everywhere. So they're trying to get it unified under one set of rules where it's no more weight bearing. And he even gave a shout out to John McCarthy. For those of you that don't know, John McCarthy has been instrumental in rule drafting since the 90s. He was Andy Foster said, I think he quoted, he was ahead of his time. So when John kind of crafted the downed opponent rule saying weight bearing or whatever, he even said that's ambiguous because you can go to 10 different rules meetings. And this goes back to our time working together. Like me and you've worked some of the same shows together in Virginia. Like I've been to several rules meetings. I've been to rules meetings in Virginia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, for independent sanctioning bodies, for state sanctioning bodies. And there isn't really a set of refs that gives you a clear-cut defined or interprets the downed opponent rule or a weight-bearing rule in the same way. And I want you to speak on this because I'm sure you've run rules meetings before.
Before every show.
Yeah.
Once Greg gave me the information, you can ask anybody, and I've done hundreds of shows here in PA. Any fighter that would chime in. There was really, when I first started my rules meeting as a young referee in the game, I was very long-winded and I went over this and I went over that. And if you say too much back there, they'll go, well, you didn't go over that. So I ended up really, really shortening up my rules meetings. one of the things that never left, especially for a pro fight, because that could change the course of somebody's career. You know what I mean? A loss will pretty much set you back. If the UFC's looking at you and you take a loss on the regional scene, that could set you back for a little bit, you know? So I would go over these rules absolutely thoroughly. From the things that I really went over was the down fighter, grabbing the cage, and when I would get involved to separate or stand up, because I would always give him I would always give him little key warnings that, like, I'm getting close to, you know, separating this or getting involved. If you don't want me to, change something. That was really the only three things that I ended up going over with the pros, because, you know, nobody gets with LeBron James before a basketball game and tries to tell him what a travel is. You've been playing the game your whole life, you know. So back there, you don't want to say too much. And yeah, we would go over I would say full palm down. I say, if you see a knee coming and you touch your fingertips to the mat and you get knocked out, then you just got knocked the fuck out. That's not what the rule is for. That was not the intent of the rule. You know, it was if somebody sees a fighter with an established position, like a knee down or a full hand down, and then you still throw the knee. What Mosvar Evilov was doing, if your hand is bouncing up and down and you're dragging it, trying to keep your hands down, and you got kneed in the fucking head, I'm just going to call it a fucking knockout. You can cry and bitch to the fucking commission, and if they want to change it, they can. That's not what the fucking rule is for. This isn't Twinkle Toes NFL shit where, oh, did he tap the second toe? Was it down when he caught the ball before he went up? No, it was if you were established as a down fighter. If you want to bounce your hand up and down trying to play some stupid game, you're just going to get knocked the fuck out, and that's all the fuck it is. You know, and for Mark Goddard not to call it that way, and for John Anik and Daniel Cormier and these guys, they have no fucking clue. And I can't believe it. They must not read their social media comments or anything. It hasn't been fingertips down for a long fucking time. Oh, well, let's see if his middle finger was down when the knee landed. Who gives a fuck if it was? It's not the fucking rule. You know, it pisses me off about that shit. And, you know, what is it? Arnold Allen should have been able to keep going. Because you know what?
Yeah, he definitely lost some momentum. I mean, you could see that fight going a different way had it stopped.
Yeah, Evilov's hand was dragging here and there, but most of those knees, that hand had come up by the time the knee hit his head. And you know what? Even, like I said, even if we were in North America, every one of those fucking knees was legal. Every fucking one of them. You know, now Ontario is using their little, you know, their different rule set from way back when. And I will say this. It's like Brent was saying. The ABC, they do not have any real power. They don't. But they have, I mean, it's still up to the states to adopt their recommendations. And at this point in the game, most states would. Because most states will, and most states don't want to be, like, left out. And the rebel, years ago, there were a lot of people positioning for power and jockey. And, well, nobody's going to come to my state and tell me what to do. And so these guys would fight. And there would be, I was refereeing with a different rule set in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Delaware. I had a different rule set in 4 different states, you know, and I would try and stay sharp. And we are getting to the point now where, because Andy Foster does hold such a prestigious position, and he is with the ABC and makes those changes, most states are going to adopt that. And you know what? The UFC is actually big enough at this point where they could talk to Ontario and say, yeah, we will come throw a show in Canada. It's going to be a $20 million economic event, whatever it is. But these are the rules that we're using. And if Ontario is like, well, you know, we still have the old rules, well, I suggest you vote and change that shit like tomorrow. You know.
So shout out to Eric from my MMA News. He said potty mouth Bill, and I want to just interject here. I just want to interject here. Having known you for almost a decade, worked some shows with you, I can definitely understand why Greg Serb kept the fucking leash on you on social media for so long, because you can't go a fucking week without getting banned on Facebook.
Yeah, and I still didn't do a good job at it. I still said too much most of the time. But yeah, referees and judges, they shouldn't be explaining themselves to the media and general public. A guy like Eric, who runs MyMMAnews.com, shout out Eric, he should be able to submit any questions he wants to an athletic commission and say, hey, you know, what did your referee have to say about this? And let the athletic commission answer it how they want. Because if the athletic commission creates their own shitstorm, that's on them. If I say something off the record and take it, well, then you got 10 reporters, 10 media outlets calling Greg Serb on Monday to discuss an event that happened over the weekend, and he's trying to get shit set for the weekend, and the next weekend. If you make a fucked up call, and that's sometimes the excuse or the explanation is, hey, I fucked up. that doesn't go over so well in the media. I fucked that one up pretty bad. If I make a bad call on Saturday night and I don't say shit, the fury is pretty much over by Tuesday morning. If I give the media a soundbite, oh my God, they'd be talking about that.
It's not over Tuesday morning. There's people that are still arguing the fucking Yuri stoppage.
Well, they need to move on with their life, man.
There's people that are still arguing. There's people that are still crying about the fucking Strickland stop, like the Strickland fight. And I'm like, do you understand how a fight is judged? Like, it's not. Literally, I've done so many things in this sport now besides judge and ref, but I pay attention enough and I do enough research on my own that I feel confident talking about some stuff. We just had a couple people pop in. If you guys are in, feel free to hit the comments down below. They pop up. You can interact with the show. If you are just tuning in, Bill got pulled over and I tore a contact, which is why I got the whole pirate eye thing going. I'm doing this thing with one eye. So we digress again. Again, awesome stuff coming down the pipe from Andy Foster, CSAC, ABC Rules Committee Chair, I believe is his title. There's not a person, I don't think, involved in this sport from any level that's going to argue 12-6 elbows. Even enforcing the rule 12-6 elbows, the narrative, as you know, I've been around the sport and you've been around the sport for a certain amount of time, has always been, it was created because X amount of person or some person saw a fucking block chopping karate thing, and they're like, well, if they can chop 6 boards with an elbow, they can break it. No, it's you want to protect the spine. And like Andy Foster said in an interview, the whole downed opponent rule, they tried to create this to eliminate some stuff, but they've only made situations worse. So in getting rid of the rule, all elbows, between that and then the all elbows legal, you're opening some more stuff up here, and I think it's gonna create a lot of it's going to change a lot of things. Where a perfect example was the Arnold Allen fight the other day, where he had momentum going into that and it was stopped.
Yeah. And every one of those, like I said, even in Ontario, I think I saw one knee that was close to the hand. I mean, Evilov's hand was bouncing up and down. The knee was in motion when the hand was down, but when it landed, his knee was up. And that's really hard and really unfair to ask a referee to make that call. Like, oh, did the knee land when it was like, I'm hoping when Andy Foster does this, I'm hoping, dude, a down fighter is you're either on your back or like a full knee down. Your hand, I'm hoping your hand has nothing to fucking do with it. If you don't want to get
Andy said,
get up.
Andy said anything besides like anything. Something else, another part of your body has to be down for you to be considered a down opponent.
Yeah. No, we could do
that.
So
there's going to be no more of the tippy toe touch shit.
Yeah, these guys have stressed themselves out for years trying to fine-tune this rule, and it's not even a fucking necessary rule. Just get rid of it. If you don't want to get kicked in the
karate demonstration.
Yeah. If you want to get kicked, if you don't want to get kicked in the face, get your hand off the mat and get it in front of your face.
Yeah, and he even quoted, there was a time, and I forget what fight he was talking about, but he specifically mentioned Herb, and the guy played the game and got knocked out, and then Herb just didn't. Herb's like, I'm not. You were playing the game. Like he anticipated Herb stopping the action, and he didn't.
When I was giving those rules meetings years ago, and I told him, I said, if that hand's bouncing up and down, and you see a knee coming in my opinion, you try and get your fingers back down and get knocked out, then you just got knocked the fuck out. And you can bitch to Greg, and I guarantee you Greg's going to take my side. As soon as I said that changed the game for a lot of fighters. They wouldn't even consider doing it. They'd be like, well, that's not going to fucking save me. So just change the rule to be like, look, this little gamesmanship thing ain't going to it's not going to save me if I get knocked out. So we might as well move on to something else. And you take the whole problem out of the game. And I did learn this in my multiple car rides with Brent Coldflesh to events over the years and stuff. I didn't know this. The original no kneeing the head of a grounded fighter, that was for like if you were in north-south position and you were trying to gun knees up to the top of somebody's fucking dome. That's
drive their head down into their kneecap. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they made this little loophole where somehow if you're bending over and your fingertips you're still a down fighter. That's not what the spirit of the rule was. That's that's really gaming the system all around. So just fix the fucking rule, which it sounds like they're doing. So
yeah. I mean, it's going to take some time. Time frame from what he said, from what I gathered, was ABC Rules Committee, I guess, meets in the summertime, and then he's going to have an education period. And then so you're possibly talking last quarter, like full on, everybody should be on board with this last quarter. He's also hoping anybody that uses the unified, like he's trying to make this change to the unified rules. So this goes anywhere, any country that uses the unified rules, because like a lot of people don't know this. I think he said referenced New York, and I know one other place, I think maybe Florida. There's states that their commission, just their rule set is they reference the unified rules.
Yes, yeah.
So it kind of supersedes any.
And like we talked about, all this is just a suggestion. Just because the ABC passes it doesn't mean a certain state passes it. But there is a lot of pressure. There is a lot of pressure these days. Like you said, there are states that are just like, yeah, we're just going to go along with what the ABC says. And that puts pressure on a lot of the other states to catch up. And like I said, UFC is at a point right now where they are big enough where they can flat out call an athletic commission and say, hey, here are the rules that all of our athletes understand. These have been looked over by medical boards. It's been passed by the ABC. We're either using these rules or we're not coming. And when you do decide to use these rules, let us know, and then we'll come. You know, they're big enough they can say that now.
Well, it's not just guys fighting. And here's the difference. And this is, you can almost, there's a 30-year gap of what they were trying to do 30 years ago. And, you know, everything evolves. We can't, even the judging, I think we got to get, like, I know we've been using 10 must scoring for 30 years. I don't know of a better system, but I really don't like that for mixed martial arts. I don't, I don't know what the solution is. I'm sure some fan somewhere has a much better idea. And I'm like, I could hear it and be like, holy shit, that's brilliant. For a 3-round fight, the 10-point must system is brutal, man. If you lose a point for some dumb shit, I mean, you're basically, you're trying to dig yourself out of a hole that's like incredible. For one time, you're like, oh, the guy was going to complete a takedown and you reached back and grabbed the fence and it kept you up. And it was just its natural reaction to do that. Do you really think about how heavy 1 point is? That's a whole fucking round for a little 1 second mistake that you did, and really all it did was keep the guy from getting a takedown. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. That goes to our argument a little bit too. This came up, we posted it, we had a little conversation online, and I was talking to some people, and one guy suggested, he's like, hey, why don't we just do this? Why don't you just gather the scorecards? If 2 judges say 10-9 and 1 judge says 9-10, and I'll just say 9-10, it's not 9-10, but one judge goes 9-10 and goes the other way with it, you just do best, 2 out of 3. And I said, here's the problem with that. And I go back to the conversation we had with Nick here on the show, perception. Like you just said, a grab of the fence. You're telling me, where the judges sit. You've been on cage side, at an event. I've been cage side an event. Where the judges sit. It's very easy for one judge to not see something that 2 other judges saw.
Or it looks different. To them. Like the impact.
Like Nick said, the perception that time, he saw the whole crowd, the whole arena saw that guy hit 4 knees. Well, only 3 of them landed because Nick was sitting right there. And at the angle he was at, he could see they didn't connect. So it's a perception thing. If Nick happened to be that one of those guys that scored it because he saw the knees, but the rest of the round looked the other way, you can't just throw his score out because he saw something detrimental. But I think, and I know you came up in a time and you came up, you're against it, but like you almost have to, the transparency of these commissions, I think, is more important here. And here's the deal. You can be as transparent as you want. There's going to be assholes on the fucking internet that Strickland got robbed. No, he didn't get robbed. There isn't a person that has any knowledge of anything that didn't say that the fight wasn't razor thin. But Strickland didn't get robbed.
Yeah, I don't think,
regardless. I was pulling for Sean. I had money on Sean. You probably had money. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day,
I had money on Duplessis. I thought I lost it. I wasn't very. I was hoping. I was biased in what I was seeing. But it's not like, oh, yeah, that's a lock. I got that one. It was up in the air, man. I don't think I could have complained if Strickland won.
No, it was razor thin. I can't argue it. Congrats to the guy. It is what it is. Go kiss your coach and be done with it. Like, I don't give a shit. At the end of the day, you have these people with this mentality, and I think it's hilarious because, again, I was a wrestling fan a little bit when I was a kid. I wasn't gaga and diehard the way I am an MMA fan. But at the end of the day, you hear the old adage of to be the champ, you got to beat the champ. That's a wrestling thing, bro. That's an old Ric Flair thing.
Yeah,
But even if you want to take that,
Yeah.
Wrestling, right? There's a ladder match. You want to dumb it down, you're using a quote from wrestling, right? There's a ladder match. What happens in a ladder match? No matter who walks in as the champ, that belt's above the fucking ring, and you got to climb to the top of that ladder and get it. So the champ doesn't get special treatment. Yeah. Oh, Sean Strickland's the champ, but Drickus took him down 6 times, but Sean got right back up. No, there's still 6 takedowns that change the fucking progression of the fight.
I don't know.
I'm not an ABC certified judge, but I've spent enough time cage side, and I've spent enough time watching rules meetings and talking to judges, and you know.
I've always been my solution for it. Listen, I know what the athletic commissions pay these judges. It's nothing that would hurt a promoter's pocket that bad. I mean, they don't pay the judges fair, to be honest with you. I've always thought 5 judges. Listen, if 3 judges score a round for one guy and the other 2 score it for the other guy, it's really, sometimes you got that one rogue judge that doesn't know what the fuck he's scoring. If 4 professional paid judges, even on the regional scene, if 3 of them say 3 or more say a guy won a round, then that's just something you're going to have to live with. Got 5 fucking judges. Or you could switch to the old school pride, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I was fond of this. The first 10 minutes were just a 10-minute round. Then they had a minute break. Then the second round was 5 minutes. If there was no winner after that, the judges declared, the judges didn't score the first round per se. At the end of the 15-minute contest,
who won the fight?
The judges say who they thought won the fight. I kind of like that way. The 10-point must system, like I said, because if you lose a point, and I think, what was that? That was the yellow card system over there in Pride, where you just lost money. If you did something illegal, you lost money. It really didn't, they didn't really take a point away from you, or this. A yellow card, you lost 20% of your cash, so because like we were saying, man, if you lose 1 point in a 3-round fight, that's killer. That doesn't seem like the we always say the punishment should fit the crime. If you're just grabbing a fence, or you do something a little out of line, 1 point, that's a huge penalty for maybe something that didn't impact the fight that big.
Brent said the Yakuza made the judging rules in Pride. So
they might have to do that. That organization was dirty as fuck. Fixed fights, all kinds of shit, man. People being paid to take dives. Yeah.
That's the cool part of watching these guys like Pat Miletich and Rampage and some of the, Boss Root and some of these guys tell some of these stories. We heard Pat Miletich tell a story one night about a bar fight over there. It was nuts. It was just insane. Because you got over there, they're rock stars. They didn't know anything different. There's people, like they showed, Rampage said he showed up and there's people with his shirts with pictures of his face on it with like Japanese, right? Like he didn't even know. It was just nuts.
I'll tell you what, there was a fight over there one time and I was reading in some of the online forums and they said, yeah, Mark Coleman threw a fight. I was like, no, man, Mark Coleman's like alpha male, tough guy. He would never throw a fight. I went and looked that fight up on YouTube. That motherfucker threw that fight. Like he threw that fight. I'll send you the link after the show. Like you couldn't believe this. Like this guy goes for this knee bar. It's the slowest, weakest thing you've ever seen. Coleman doesn't even try and explode out of it. He just lays their belly down and then taps. It's like God Almighty, Mark. Like you just sold a fight.
Then again, if the Yakuza could make a couple million, whatever the unit of measurement is over there on that shit, a couple $1 million, even if it was a couple million US dollars, and they say, do this, we're going to give you this.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, man. It's the Yakuza over there. They're not Americans, man. It's not really somebody you want to fuck around with or fight back,
No.
So, but yeah, that's I did like the Pride scoring, and I think we could do better. I mean, we're inching towards. The state of MMA is pretty good, man. All the states pretty much have, at least a degree of a unified rule set. There's not a whole lot of people going rogue anymore. The sport generally does move pretty smooth, but there's still some bugs we could iron out, to quit creating these freaking headaches.
Yeah, no, I think it goes a long way to take the judges out of the arena. I think you need the only way to do it is, and again, we see the fight, we see what we're shown.
Yeah.
Like it's a whole different experience when you go to these smaller shows. Like you see what you're shown at home. So there's people in a production trailer that are shouting, go to camera 2, go to camera 3.
Yeah.
So if these judges have, say there's 8 cameras on a fight, and I know there's more, but say there's 8 cameras on a fight, and these judges have a wall of all these cameras that they can look at with cans on. and keep them whatever sequestered. I don't care. But I think again, like I said, Nick alluded to this, and I remember it was probably my favorite part of that episode when Nick talked about judging and the difficulties.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's why I like talking to people like that in sport, because you don't get judges and like I deflect all the time. I'm like I'll sit here and I'll listen to your opinion on something, and then it'll come up in conversation. I'm like, well, look, here's the deal. My dude's been around the sport for a year, like over a decade. He reffed for I don't know how many years. He's reffed every 3-letter organization almost on the East Coast that's come to the East Coast you could think of. I was like, at the highest levels. I was like, fuck. I was like, it was kind of cool to see you in the Strickland promo. To me, that's still cool. I mean, at the end of the day, it was awesome. But no. So I'll take his word over some random fuck on the internet. So I'll defer a lot. I'm like, well, yeah, I beg to differ, but it is what it is. Like I said, you're never going to change somebody's opinion. Doesn't want it changed.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, I've done this at a high level. I've done it for a long time. I can have opinion on something. It doesn't mean that I'm ultimately right. I still, dude, I fucked calls up sometimes,
yeah.
You know, never tried it, but it doesn't mean I'm automatically right. There's some guy who could be watching MMA for a week and be like, no, this would have been better. And I look at it and be like, oh yeah, you're right. That would have been better. You know, so it's like, yeah, just because Mark Goddard or I say something, it doesn't mean like it's gospel. You know, you could still have your opinion and you could be more right, you know?
I mean, at the end of the day too, here's the difference. You guys are, I mean, just for you example, you worked at the place you're at now when you were reffing, right? So,
yeah.
Okay. So you're a factory worker by day. Again, you get to the regional level, you get to a lot of these other things, but you're a factory worker by day. You punch your ticket 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, whatever the fucking deal is. On Friday night, you go to the hotel and you hang out and you do the weigh-ins or whatever the fuck you need to do. Like you're there with the commission. You're not getting reps in on Wednesday at ref school.
No,
you know what I'm saying? Like you're not.
Nope.
And shout out to Mark Goddard, because one thing I like about Mark Goddard's got 15 MMA fights underneath his belt.
Yeah, he does.
So if anybody out there is going to speak, let it be Mark Goddard, because we do need some more transparency when it comes to that stuff. I understand sometimes you came up in a world where, let's just face it, when we were coming up and you were involved in the sport both as a fighter and you started as a ref, like information gathering and information wasn't as readily available as it is now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you have people that cover this space that are asking questions. Ariel the other day, 14-time journalist of the year, probably one of the best media sources in our space. He didn't even know that they have rules meetings before every fight. So you have these people out here making these comments, and it just blows my mind. Whereas I guess we kind of take it for granted a little bit because it was part of our lives. I've stood there in rules meetings, and I've never stood there in rules meetings as a fighter. I've stood there in rules meetings as a corner. I've stood there in rules meetings as with doing management stuff. I've stood there in rules meetings working the event. You know what I'm saying? So I've never ran a rules meeting. You have. So it's just all different experiences. And there's people out there that don't understand it, that don't know. They're the least inclined ones that should be making statements about it, because it's back on knowledge. Mark Goddard's got 15 MMA fights. He does an amazing job.
Yeah, he is
bringing younger guys up. IMMA, like the amateurs and the stuff. He's worked closely with John Kavanaugh over there in Europe. They're really building up the scene over there, because it's not what it probably could be. So if anybody's going to speak on it, shout out to Mark Goddard. But I understand what you're saying. You came up at a time where it wasn't.
For Mark, it's your natural instinct to want to defend yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and listen, I've made a lot of bad calls and I've made a lot of good calls where I got criticized anyway. And I know I made the right call. You still shouldn't get on social media and explain yourself. Mark Goddard and some of these bigger name referees, maybe they have a little bit more leeway to do that, you know. But I'm saying for me, I'm a very, Mark Goddard seems like he's a little bit easier going than me. I'm pretty confrontational. If I feel I was right and you try and hit me with some shit that's different, yeah, you're going to get some swear words, some unprofessional behavior. It was just better that I kept my mouth shut.
A Facebook ban or two. Yeah, all that shit. No, and I get it. Like I said, it'll be a dead issue in 2 weeks, and somebody will be bitching. Like I said, there's still people bitching about the Yuri stoppage, and that was in December.
Just going back, I'm interested in what you said about maybe removing the judges from the because listen, I know a guy like Brent, and I know some of the other people that judge are like, oh, I can, the crowd doesn't affect me. How can it not? You hear the crowd erupting for a fan favorite, whether it's a hometown favorite or whether it's a UFC favorite, who's fighting somebody the fans don't like, and every strike they land, it's going to be louder. The crowd is going to be more animated. How does that not change your mind? And I would love to ask Brent if we could have him on, but it's, he can't, he shouldn't, he shouldn't comment too much on maybe he could comment on that, just not specific fights. But how could that not influence you as far as, the impact of the strikes, or, the crowd every time something landed? Here, I'll make you laugh. You remember Lloyd Irvin? Lloyd Irvin from the Baltimore, Maryland school. He has a lot of fighters that have come through over the years. If you ever watch a Lloyd Irvin fighter fight, and all his fan base and fans there, every time a strike lands, like every time, hey, you know who that's for? That's kind of to motivate their fighter. That's kind of to let the judges know, hey, a strike just landed, a punch, a kick. Hey, you hear that? You hear that?
Sensei Neiman from down there is notorious for that too. That was like a staple of the strike-off fights when Kaizen fighters were fighting. Yeah.
Well, when you get in a close fight and it's that third round and you feel like it was 1-1 apiece, and you're like, man, I heard hey a lot tonight. I think the other guy hit him more. He scored for that guy. How could that not influence you as far as the crowd eruption or any of that stuff? So removing them from the sound and removing them from hearing the broadcast and just letting them watch the fight, that's an interesting concept, man. I don't know. That's just so far away from the traditional way it's been done for
we're 30 years away from the. Here's the deal: we're not bootleg pay-per-views anymore. And I had notes on this. You got to look. I think I had it. Let me pull these back out. These are from last week, but I think it was something we were talking about, like with the ESPN. Back when we were talking about the new ESPN deal with Raw and what it means for the Netflix deal. Sorry, not the ESPN deal. So you got to figure, and people don't. For people that haven't been following us that long, or people I remember watching this shit on bootleg tapes. You know what I'm saying? I've watched this sport long before John Jones was even involved in it. You know what I'm saying? So maybe not at the fevered level I am now, maybe not enough to cover it, maybe not enough to talk about it, but I was still aware of it. But could you 95, 96, 90, we'll go back to 98. If I looked at you, because you were coming up, right? When did you fight?
Oh my God, dude. I didn't have my first fight till 2008-ish.
Okay, so we even go to 2008 when you were fighting. If I looked at you, and we'll go a little bit back to that, so say 2004, early 2000s. If I looked at you and said, hey, UFC is going to be on ESPN, you'd have been like, man, the fuck, that's football and hockey. No. So
no.
We're here now.
ESPN,
there's so much shit that hasn't changed in 30 years. Some of it's got to catch up at some point.
ESPN fought to not cover this shit. They ignored it like the plague for years, and John McCain, would call it human cockfighting, and all these political bases were against it. And I don't know why they tried to fight so hard on it. If you would have told me and that's why we always joke around when people shit on Dana White, I'm like, the guy did a pretty good fucking job, man.
You had states that wouldn't even entertain the idea of UFC even doing promotional stuff in their state, let alone do it. Now entire country governments, state governments are paying the UFC machine to come bring the show to their location. So if all that's changed, and we've got some antiquated 12-6 rules, or some antiquated way of judging, or a 10-round must system, which is a boxing scoring system originally. I mean, boxing was the first way to do it.
Yep.
We're using a boxing scoring system. We've come this far not to make some more changes, and I think this 12-6 rule, grounded opponent rule, will clear some shit up in the future. I hope so. We just spent 45 minutes talking about it.
This is an important part of MMA future, man. It's gonna change some stuff for the better. So it's a pretty big deal, actually.
Yeah.
What else we got on the agenda?
Kayla Harrison. I think we covered that. No judge can. It's not so much the broadcast. See, Brent fires back. No judge can hear the broadcast. I know no judge can hear the broadcasters. Some people don't. Some people might not know that. So the judges are sitting there. They can't hear the broadcast team. Traditionally, if you're sitting at an event, if you haven't been to an event, you can't hear the broadcast team if they are.
I was just referring that if you took the judges not off site necessarily, but to a back room, and you let them see the best camera angles. I'm not talking pumping the broadcast through. I'm saying
no. Cans meaning just you're focused and you can't hear anything. And maybe not cans in a room. If you're in a room, there's no need for cans. But maybe if you're still in the arena, cans, like put cans on. Like again, we get that. We know that, Brett. It's just spitballing here.
Yeah.
I mean, you do this shit for a fucking living. What could we do? What could we demand from Dana White to make your job easier, Brett? That's what we're about.
I've always been the first to admit, I think I'm a terrible judge. I don't feel like I'm a good judge, and I don't know why. Like, I don't think like I would make good decisions. And, you know, if I see it, you know, I've talked to Brent before. I was like, all right, so you see a guy controlling 4.5 minutes of a round, and then he gets dropped in the last 30 seconds and swarmed on, but doesn't get finished. Who the fuck do you give the round to? I don't know, man.
Perfect example. Look at the Magny Malott fight. Malott was winning
2-0 easy.
13 minutes of that fight. That fight changed dramatically.
Yeah, that was the last 90
seconds.
Changed
dramatically. 15 seconds. If he would have survived that, that's a Magny round. But if you're already up 2 rounds to nothing, it doesn't make a difference.
Well, and here's the thing too, with that Magny Malott round, the way that went down, say Mike Malott would have survived to the round to the end of the round. Is that a 10-8? I don't know. You know, is that fight now a draw? I don't know, because Magny did so much
it wasn't.
more damage.
It wouldn't have been a 10-8 because he was running. Magny had 3 minutes of that round.
I don't know what it would have been, because all I know is that in that final round, Magny did so much more significant damage than Malott did in the first 13.5 minutes. So
yeah, true. Well, then we won't even go. I honestly, I don't remember. I kind of phased out. I remember Malott winning the fight, and I had Malott on my parlay. So I had Malott winning the fight.
See, I think, and I could be wrong. I think if you're almost finished and the bell saves you, that's probably a 10-8 round no matter what. You know, I don't know. But yeah, like you said, Malott was winning the first 3 minutes of the third round. So I don't know. Like, I think I'm a terrible judge. I'm glad I never had to do it. I don't think I'll be good at it.
Well, and here's a perfect example. So you're sitting here again. We didn't judge the fight. We don't have judging experience. We're going by the best of our educated opinions, which Bill's is slightly a little more than mine because he actually worked for the commission. I've worked shows. I've been involved, but I've never actively worked for the commission. So we digress. I kind of defer to Bill on a lot of stuff with that. But even Bill said he's not a judge. That's why we had Nick on. You know, Nick's got 20 years of cage experience, a couple years of ref experience. I know he's reffing, I think, before COVID, and now he's giving back to the sport he loves as a judge. So I was excited to see Lieben being a judge in California. I think these are the guys that understand these situations a little more and understand the gravity of, okay, this guy just did this to escape this. That's pretty impressive.
Dude, and I have to double back just what you're saying. I still think people online, I think Lieben might have messed up or not messed up. I think he was on the opposite side of a split decision. Like, he was the one lone judge in that first show. So even as well as he knows the sport and the way he competed at the level, he can still make mistakes. He can still, it's
perception. It all boils down to perception. You can start a fucking judge school and Brett can be there every day watching tape, scoring rounds.
Yeah.
You can get your reps in and you could actually be in. I mean, there's referee school. Mark Goddard runs a ref school if you want to go do it. It's not a long-term thing. But again, like I said, judges and refs, you guys are not getting your reps in during the week. You're getting your reps in real time. So you make a mistake, unfortunately, you make a mistake, you handle it one way, it might not be it. It opens your eyes to a different situation. But then at the same time, you per se, like you said about taking the point with Pat or that other fighter that you wanted to have him on because you feel like you cost him a win. Like, these are things, like, we're sitting here now. We watched the show 3 weeks ago. I don't remember the Malott fight.
Mm-hmm.
So to sit here in an interview, had I watched that fight to judge it, I couldn't. Mm-hmm. Oh, let me watch it again. Andy Foster did bring that point up in that interview, but a lot to unpack here, dude. Brent Coleflesh says the judges should be sequestered in a special adult nightclub during fights.
That's the
judging by how much. I'm going to take a stab and say, judging by how big of a fan of your ass he is. I don't know what the word special means, but
no, that's the after judging. No, I do think overall the judging in mixed martial arts is a hell of a lot better these days than it used to be 20 years ago. You could literally just lay on somebody 20 years ago and get the nod, just because you laid on them. And I think I might actually want to fight that way. I was completely outclassed and outsized, and I was just trying to win positionally to get to the end of the round. I had gone up a weight class for this fight. That's a huge mistake. Don't do that. And then I got my ass beat in the third round to the point of if there was ever a 10-7, that should have been a 10-7. But the round scoring system, the judges are much better today than they were back then. And it comes with trial and error.
People don't, like I said, the dedicated fan, and I know people are out there like this because you see like fevered football fans. Like I don't watch football anymore, but you see fevered football fans. Well, it can't be this call because it was this. And then next thing you know, the judge comes back on and says the same ruling. Like there's people that know the stuff that have watched football for 20 years. I'd like to think, or I'd like to see more of this fucking fan base, like you just to understand. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to know enough to come on here and rant about it for a fucking hour. Just enough. If you're going to be involved and you're going to like at least have some fucking knowledge. Like I said, shout out to Sean Sheehan, Severe MMA. Good resource. This guy is like hyper focused and understands judging probably better than anybody in the media space. He even schooled John Anik on some stuff. John Anik is one of the best commentators that's ever put the cans on. You know what I'm saying? So, but he has a real good video that he put out. It's pinned to the top of his Twitter. It's on YouTube. Anybody can watch it. It's like a 20-minute video explaining how, you hear John Anik say it at the beginning of every broadcast. Judging is effective grappling and striking, octagon control and aggressiveness, cage control and aggressiveness, whatever. Those are stacked, and people don't understand this. So there's people out here arguing this Strickland decision. I'm like, do you understand how fights are judged? Again, I'm not an ABC certified judge, but I understand that there's 3 criteria to judging a fight, and you only move on to the next criteria if the previous criteria is dead even. And when you have a fight like Strickland, there was more significant strikes and Duplessis was wearing it, but there's other things, there's other factors that favored into that fight. I'm not an ABC certified judge, but
it is odd. It is odd though that at the end of the fight, the UFC will put the fight metrics up that shows a representation of the whole fight. So why? I mean, like you said, we got John Anik and Daniel Cormier, and some of these guys, they don't even know the fucking rules. And this is their whole life. They were world champions, the best in the business at this shit, and they're still getting rules wrong. So at the end of the fight, the UFC will throw that, here's our fight metrics and head shots, body shots. And you're like, holy shit, Sean Strickland outlanded this motherfucker by a lot. I mean, the UFC is presenting that the fight is judged as a whole, when that's not the way it is, And
so I think you have all this info. Again, this is where we go back to this thing. Again, I know you came up during a different time, but information is not what it was when you were coming up through the game. The fight game itself is, even on the regional level where you were at, the fight game itself has changed. Information is crucial now, and everybody fucking craves it. If you don't have it, you're grumpy. What I'm saying is, and I give zero fucks about these fucks on the internet. Like, there's a whole raft of people. We named them in the year-end show where we thanked them for stopping in every week and sharing the content, liking it. And again, reminder, we do have merch coming. They're the guys that are like, when's the merch coming? We're going to, like, these are the guys. They're the ones that want to have an educated conversation. They're the ones that'll not know something and listen to you say something and live half a world away. And they're like, oh, okay, that's cool. Thank you for I appreciate you sharing that. But I think we need something, and I think Mark Goddard, and again, we came up under 2 different schools here, like the school you came up through, the time I was involved to now, like a guy like Mark Goddard doing what he's doing to a certain extent, and I understand part of what you're saying, like there's a place for this now in this sport. And you need, like, shit, if I had access to more events, I would go to the post bouts where the refs are, especially in a situation like the Arnold Allen situation. There was a lot of other factors with that, but you have these decisions and you have these people wondering, why was this, why was this, that? Go to the post bout. You guys have them after every event, every commission. It's like a debriefing. Every commission has them after it. Go to it. It's public knowledge. You're open to it. And I'm sure these commissioners that are getting 26 calls and emails during the week, like you said, when they're getting ready to deal with the next amount of the next set of fights or the next boxing thing or the next event coming up or coordinated whenever they don't want to deal with this shit. So the best way to do it is provide the information.
Well, and that's the thing. And they got to be ready to accept that sometimes the answer is, hey, I fucked up. Yeah, I really
Well, here's
fucked
the
that
deal.
call up. That was,
We can give everybody all the information in the world. There's not a person that there's people out there that are still going to Strickland was robbed. I don't give a fuck what you say. Strickland was robbed. No.
oh my
So,
god, I could imagine a judge saying, "Yeah, I rewatched the fight and I honestly thought Strickland won." And oh my god, then you'd get into all kinds of civil litigation and lawsuits and oh, they cost me this much money and he watched the fight a second time and said that I won. It would just be a mess. It'd be an absolute mess. So, but yeah, sometimes if there's a bad decision, a bad stoppage, or sometimes the reason is we just fucked it up. You know, and on a different day we would have done better. You know,
like I said, the same way I think if the UFC, well, and again, you said about the UFC being big enough, we're circling way back because I don't ever tell a story in a straight line, or do a podcast for that matter. But anyways, we're all over the place. No, you said about the UFC being powerful enough to do stuff. That's just another example. We have 65 and 75 weight classes.
Yeah,
we have them, and you talk about, oh, I'm not fighting. This guy's not fighting. That guy, like, where's this guy? And he should have the title shot. I think if you open up, and we talked about this the other week too, and you got the purists and the diehards. I think if you open up another division or maybe two, that it changes and it moves some stuff around, especially when you're putting on 43 events a year. You know what I'm saying? Minimum. That was what we did. That was what the UFC 43 events is what they did last year. It's 52 weeks out of the month or out of the year.
If they were ever to do that before they get to 65 and 75, there needs to be a 225 or a 235. That gap between light heavyweight and heavyweight, that's too big, man.
No, I don't personally. I don't think that, because you know why? What the light heavyweight? I say this: light heavyweights hasn't recovered from John Jones leaving. And heavyweights kind of just in this fucking whatever's going on with heavyweight now. So, like I said, I think I'd like to see a 65.
Hey, there's a world-class fighter out there right now that would be a champion, and he walks around at 235 pounds. And his options are to bump up and fight Brock Lesnar or to kill himself in a weight cut to get down to John Jones, you know, when John Jones is light heavyweight. And that's a difficult position to be in, you know. The gap between light heavyweight and heavyweight is so gigantic. But like you said, it's just an opinion. It doesn't mean I'm right. It doesn't mean I'm wrong. It's just something that I would like to see, you know.
Yeah, no, and again, like I said, we're just spitballing here. I think I think if the UFC hasn't adopted it by now, you sit here on one hand and say times have changed and the sport needs to evolve, and then you sit here on the other hand and go, oh well, they haven't done it by now. They're not going to. As I get ready to put another tropical mango flavor CannaDip in.
Hey, even the NBA and the NFL are still changing rules year to year. That I know you don't.
And that
watch
shit's only getting worse from what I hear. So,
dude, it's because they're overdoing it now. They're overdoing it with shit. But they are making some positive changes. But man, they're they're trying to like, oh, we want to improve the safety of the game, which I get. Everybody wants to improve safety, but at the end of the day, this is full contact shit. You know, and whether it's mixed martial arts, the NFL, these are the biggest, baddest athletes, fastest athletes in the world, trying to do something high impact. There's going to be a little carnage, you know, and honestly, that's kind of why we watch. So we can't sit here and then talk about fighter safety and be like, oh, we want to make it completely safe. And I'm like, hey, did you get to see this guy get knocked fucking cold? You know,
you also have an entire arena of fans that, and again, it's just about it's the appreciation for. You said about Pride earlier. The thing I liked about watching Pride, honestly, part of it was the audience's appreciation for the actual sport.
Oh yeah.
It irritates as a guy who will sit here for a couple hours and watch no-gi sub-only jiu-jitsu. Like, it annoys my soul when an entire arena of people are just booing two guys because they're both black belt level grapplers and they're canceling each other out and it's human chess. And I appreciate that. And that's the difference between the Pride days, because you would have guys go through an exchange, even if it was a grappling exchange, and the audience would be completely silent. And at the end of the exchange, they would separate.
A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that. They would watch it. They would watch a scramble, and then whoever came out on top, you get the little thousands of golf claps.
Yeah,
you know, they appreciate. But, you know, we're in America. We're this raucous crowd painting like "Just Bleed" across our chest like a bunch of savages.
Just reminding everybody, we are presented by Pull No Punches Apparel, 717 Surplus, and our friends over at CannaDips. This week's flavor of the week, tropical mango. I'm not a big mango fan, but this is pretty good.
That
10
was
milligrams of CBD per pouch.
That was a good talk this week, man. I felt like I got a lot of passion out.
Yeah, no, we're good.
A lot of
Probably
cuss
still
words,
stirred a little bit from the getting pulled over.
No,
I'm gonna refresh this just because something's. I don't want you to get irritated. Somebody's picture's not on here, but it's not the UFC's fault. It's my browser being stupid. Bill's pet peeve is go back here, go down here. I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna lie. We have to be thankful for everything we have, but this isn't the greatest card of the year, honestly. Also, can I point out it's February 1st, 2024, and Tony Ferguson still has not lost a fight this year. Molly McCann's back, so I'm excited for her in the prelims. Gilbert Urbina across Hector Urbina was his older brother. I think he's one of three brothers. They've all gone through tough at one point or been in tough. 7-3.
Yeah, I was looking at this card the other day on DraftKings. There are a couple fights I'm gonna bet this. So that is not one of them.
No. Radke, of course, CFFC vet if you're a CFFC fan like us. Excuse me. Last win was on the Adesanya Strickland card, so he's been out for a little while. So that one's should be a
I'll tell
decent
you what,
fight.
I did see when I was scrolling through the DraftKings board, I saw there was a couple names that I didn't know how to say. So there's a couple Russians fighting each other.
Well, as somebody who has to sometimes do customer service in other languages because of my business I own, I could tell you that Google Translate's a lifesaver. Or they have like this pronunciation stuff where you're just like, how do I pronounce this? And you type the word in and it gives you like 3 or 4 different dialects. So, and you know me, I'll mutilate Russian names for the entire hour of this fucking podcast. If they do UFC Moscow, I'll murder every name. So we'll just defer to you. Muradov's 26-8. He's 4-2 in the UFC. It's this guy right here on the right.
He has shamed his family 8 times. I'm just kidding.
Kizriev. We'll go with Kizriev. I think that's good. 14-0. He's even on KOs and subs in that 14, 7-7. 2-0 in the UFC. 2-0 in the UFC. He came through Contender Series. So this is a mixed bag. This can go anywhere.
Yep.
No pick on that. No pick on Natalia Silva. I feel like who did she? Yes, she fought Andrea Lee and had a win over her. Shit, she won her last 3, so she's on a tear. Last 4. Oh, that's right. She did have a win over Jasavicius. Okay. So again, if you don't know who she is, that's her resume for the last 4. Clearly Arujo. You go ahead, Bill. You want to try that one?
Arujo.
There we go. I overtry sometimes. She is ranked number 7, and of course it's going to do that. She, I think, yeah, that's right. She did have the loss to Alexa Grasso. She won Lee. She beat Lee. Lost to her, and of course Roxanne Modafferi. She had a win over her. I think that was Roxanne Modafferi's last fight. That might be why I remember her name. So been around a minute.
Randy Brown, right?
Oh yeah, Randy. Why is my browser doing that? Randy Brown, Muslim Salikov.
Yeah,
they're not that hard if you just look at them sometimes. Just sound them out like you're in kindergarten.
Yeah, Salikov. He lost to Nicholas Dalby last time, I believe. I don't know. Randy Brown should get that one. Randy Brown's underrated. He's like 10-4 in the UFC, some 11-4.
Hey, this name's come up a time or two. I forgot that we finally linked up. I've been a fan of this guy for a minute. Good friend of our buddy Mike Pope. Your buddy Colton Smith.
No way. It was
stopping in the fight show. Yeah, he hit me up on. I forgot I had hit him up a while ago.
Yeah, he was probably the best fighter that I've ever been in a cage in a fight with, like an actual sanctioned fight. Colton was the best guy. So what's up? Shout out Colton, man. Good.
Shout out Colton. Thank you for your service, bud. You talk to your boy Pope a lot. That's my homie. When do you want to come on? I heard you got some things going with some veteran stuff. You let us know if you want to.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, he was always
stop through and share the stuff. Thank you for your service. We appreciate you. Brent says thanks for beating Bill's ass.
Colton did lay the ass whoop down, man. He got me out there. I only got finished twice, I think, in maybe 3 times in 15 fights. Colton did it the best. Colton got me out of there violently. So
you heard it here first, Colton Smith. Which, for those, because again, I don't know. We'll just throw a little. Since we have a special guest, we got a celebrity in the fucking house. We'll just Colton Smith tennis now. We'll just throw the old Colton Smith topology up here. 7-5.
Yeah, Colton Smith, I believe, won season 14 of The Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah, I forget. It was.
I don't remember. I think it was season 14.
They all blur together.
Yeah, Colton was a savage, man.
Look, if for those of you that don't know who Colton Smith is, Bobby Knuckles, Micah Kies, and I don't give a fuck if there's a W or an L there. The guy made the walk. So shout out to Colton Smith. Yeah, man. He's been around doing the damn thing since 2011 as a pro. 2008 as an amateur U.S. Army veteran.
Yeah, we'll see.
Colton Smith he's in.
See if we can't get him on the show here in the next couple of weeks or next month or two. You know, I'd like to know what he's up to. I'm friends. Hey, I'm friends. I would have been a better fighter if I wasn't so friendly or didn't care so much about people or my friends. I'm friends with every guy I ever fought. You know, I can't think of a bad guy. Colton's an awesome dude. I'd love to hear what he's up to these days.
Even guys you've taken points from.
Yeah. Even the guys have taken points.
Randy Brown, I think he's won his last 5 or 6. It said UFC.
Yeah, he's underrated. He's very
17-5. UFC since 2016, and he's a Ring of Combat vet, which you hear that name pop up fighting out of New York. Salika. Dalby. He had the loss to Dalby.
You know what, Salikov, he's not overly violent. A lot of technical fighting, a lot of leg kicks, nothing thudding, nothing real heavy. I think he's got a little bit of grappling. But like I said, I think Randy Brown should probably get that
13. He's 19-4, 13 KOs, 2 by submission, 13 first round finishes. So definitely a name to.
I thought.
Let's look at the prerequisites here. Let's look at the prerequisites on the come up. Okay. We got the Russian flag. We've got the Khabib training beard. We've got that combination of names. I don't need to say anything else.
Yeah, I thought he would have beat Nicholas Dalby, but he won the first round, and Dalby came back on him. So
Dalby is for sure. I like Nicholas Dalby, and I also like the fact that he's super vocal about the mental health stuff, and I really like the fact that on the tail end, like 23 as a whole, you had guys using the mic for positive reasons, and you know, all glory to God and all that shit. It's all fine and dandy, but when you grab that mic and you do it like Patty Pimblett did, or you do like Nicholas Dalby, who was extensively talking about mental health and the struggles, and you know, you got guys out here that get locked in the cage with another man, and the world over they're known, and they're just guys that put their pants on every day and go to work. Most of them, you know, a lot of these guys have full-time jobs, and they're just dudes out there doing it with families and whatever, and they get this status because of something they love to do. And I just, like I said, I can appreciate the fact that guys are out there talking about this shit. Yeah. So, Money Moicano
wants money. I remember that interview after he choked somebody out. Moicano wants money.
He's won his last 4 or 6. The guy stepped his merch game up. Like he's calling himself a YouTuber now. He's been in the UFC since 2014. He's 9-5 in the UFC. He has no KOs, however. Drew Dober, another guy, top 15. Been around for a minute.
I will tell you this, though. Moicano is aggressive in trying to get a finish, whether it's choke or ground and pound. Dober throws heat, man. That should be a banger. I'm looking forward to that one.
10 wins by submission, 4 first-round finishes.
I'm not betting it either way. You know, it could go either way. I do believe Moicano is the small favorite, if I remember seeing that right. Yeah, I don't know. That's one I'm just going to kick back and watch. And, you know, I don't think that one's going to decision. That's just my guess.
I mean, he went 5 rounds with Rafael Dos Anjos. And again, this is Rafael Dos Anjos in 2022, so it's not saying everything I mean. But
Ooh, that's a good one.
I think this isn't a bad main. I think this is what we call the people's main event because I honestly think this is. I don't know. Maybe this should have been. Maybe the Moicano fight might have should have been the main event, but you got a number 8 guy versus a number 11.
I think Delitse is coming off a loss to Martin Vettori. Is that?
Yeah. He fought. I'm trying to think of what fight I actually just watched.
Marvin Vettori. Sorry.
It was the Hermanson. He looked really impressive in the Hermanson fight.
Yeah. No, he's a beast. He looks like Russian Bear. You know, built like a brick shit house. I think it's 185, right? They're fighting at 185, not 205.
Yeah, I believe that's what. Yeah, it's 185.
And I think Nazardine Imavov, didn't he fought Strickland or something like that? Went to decision with him, something.
Yeah, Imavov is. I mean, again, we always say this is no slouch, but I mean that as levels of the UFC. The guy's ranked number 11, 12-4, so he's definitely got.
Yeah. He is Imavov.
Yeah, lost a decision to Strickland.
Okay.
Got a decision over Buckley.
I will say Nazardine is probably the more skilled fighter. Delitse is by far the more violent fighter. So it should be Delitse probably only needs 1 or 2 good shots to get him out of there. You know, and if he starts flurrying on them, but I think Imavov, however you say it, I think he's got the better skills. I don't know, man. That was a tough one too. You know, Delitse might be real motivated because I kind of thought he won that fight against Vettori. You know, it was close. I could be wrong. Horrible judge, but
I saw a Georgian parlay pop up. It's Dolidze, Marab. Who's the third one? I think it was a female. Maybe it was a female. It might have been a female Georgian fight. I think there's a female Georgian fighter. Maybe is it on this card?
Oh, is that Delitse from Georgia?
Yeah.
Okay.
The country, not the state.
Yeah. That's a big Georgian.
Yeah, no, him, Marab. There's a Georgia. I just saw something pop up. I think it was on ESPN or somebody said something. They posted something. It was a Georgian parlay. I think they stretched it out over like the whole month because you got the Marab fight coming up. You got this fight, and there's another. It's a big month for Georgian MMA.
Hey, he's a live underdog, man. You know, if you like a violent guy, man, Delitse's your guy.
Yeah, and that's a fight night card. So that's an ESPN early start time. So that's actually not early, moderately early. 7 p.m. start time on ESPN Plus. So you don't necessarily have to illegally stream that one if that's what you do. I mean, I don't know what people do. What they do is their own business. We lost Bill. He got pulled over again. Or somebody called him right before the referee. Perfect timing. Are you there, Bill? Well, unless Bill comes back, I guess we're going to call it. That has been. Let me hit him quick. I see what's going on. I'd hate to rob the world of a referent. Oh, there he is. We lost him. He'll be back. With that said, we'll wait a minute. Bill will be back with the referent. But just reminding you guys, CannaDips.com, code FightShow, 20% off. Flavor of the week, tropical mango, 10 milligrams of CBD per pouch if I don't drop it all over the desk. Bunch of different flavors. They got the Cali Roll, gives you all 5 flavors. They come out with new ones, seasonal ones. I personally loved it when I was quitting smoking. Jared Gordon's, who was on the show before, has spoken on using it for quitting chewing tobacco. CBD has loads of health properties. This is not doctor advice. I am not a doctor. I don't know if we're going to get Bill back. It might just be my ugly mug for the rest of the show. I don't know where he's at. Are you coming? We'll call him and see if he's coming. Which is probably fucking him up if he's trying to get back in the stream because he's got an iPhone. All right. Looks like no Bill. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. He just seen it. We'll give it a minute. Thanks for sticking with us. Again, we're brought to you, presented by Pull No Punches Apparel, 717 Surplus CannaDips. Hit there at the bottom. Code FightShow for 20% off. I don't know if Bill's going to make it back. we appreciate you guys stopping. And if anybody's here, Christy said it wasn't her, which is Bill's significant other. If you're in the stream, want to drop a comment and save me from talking to myself, staring at myself on the screen, go ahead. If you missed it, Bill got pulled over on the way to the show. I tore a contact, so I got this whole pirate eye thing going. Just to recap, they're going to be doing some rule changes for the unified. Here he is. And he's back. I was losing it, dog. I was getting ready to just call it a day.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. My mom's called me, so yeah, that's. I just fixed the lock at her house before this, so.
So we will add this to the stage. We will go here.
Oh. All right, I guess I'm just killing it with the ref rant right now. Now I feel like I ranted the whole show. My rant would have been about the MMA rules changes and stuff, but I feel like we're headed in the right direction with it. I feel like we're fixing a lot of rules that have been around for a long time by people who were just wanted to be involved and seek out power. There was no real rhyme or reason for their stuff. They just wanted to be difficult, and we moved by that right now. So I got no real upset ref rant at this time. It sounds like shit's getting handled. So we'll come back. We'll come back next week, I'm sure, after this event, and I'll have me off of this week's show. So you back there?
Ref rant was Bill Bitch, and he didn't have a ref rant. So, and that ref rant was brought to you by Pulling and Punches Apparel.
The whole show was a rant for me.
Well, yeah, the last hour is pretty much CannaDips has got me through, and we are brought to you, presented by Pulling and Punches Apparel, 717 Surplus, and CannaDips. So the ref rant was brought to you by Pulling and Punches Apparel. Shout out to them. They've supported us since the beginning. Tees, hats, hoodies, tanks, beanies, flannels, hoodies, koozies, whatever you want. They got something for everything, guys. If you're buying one, you might as well buy two because your girl's going to steal your hoodie. PullingandPunchesApparel.com. Tell them Price and Bill sent you from FightShow. Merch. We got merch coming for those who have been asking. We promised it. We talked about it. I got some design stuff going on in the background. We do have some FightShow walkout tees are coming. We got some logo stuff coming. Some other things going on in the background, some irons in the fire, as they call it. Thursday next, I don't have your schedule in front of me, Bill. Thursday?
We'll be here.
We are live Thursdays at 7, streamed Facebook, live and interactive on Facebook and YouTube, streamed over on LinkedIn. If you want to check us out anywheres, hit me up on Facebook. If you have any questions about anything, or leave your comment in the show comments. Anything you got, Bubba?
That's it, man. Glad we got a 13-week run with MMA back on here.
13 weeks of fight week. If you haven't seen the meme of Bill dancing on the internet, it's on my profile. Other than that, Fight Show episode 20. We're out, guys. See you next week.
Yeah, man.